Hello, my name is Jamie Barnes, and I did my unit plan on flowers and plants and the importance that they have to our environment. So, the first thing that I would do to kind of introduce the unit plan is to read a story to the students called The Tiny Seed. And if you haven't read this book, I highly encourage you that you do because it is like not only adorable, but one of the best ways to introduce the life cycle of a plant and like something with a scientific background or subject to younger children, like as early as 3 to 4. It really just gives a great emphasis on the life cycle of a plant, and it's introducing the plant when it's a seed, and then it walks you through the entire life cycle of a plant, and it's really cute. Some of my driving questions during this unit plan will be like things like, will the student understand what a plant life cycle is? Will the student gain a better understanding of healthy plants to eat? And will the students understand the importance of exploring plants and flowers? So one of the first big activities that we would do would be some small group and large group activities. So for example, for a small group, we would do counting flower petals. So I would have the students seated at a table, and I would give each of them a handful of about 4 or 5 flower petals, and they would go and they would count how many they have and place them in little cups or jars. And then they'd be able to play games with it and be able to count. So if I take 4 petals from a jar, then I only have 1 petal left, or things like that. Another activity that we would do is a large group counting math or counting activity. So we would do like a number line or bouquet making. So this would be where like I go and I put a bunch of numbers make little mini bouquets, and then they would count like how many they have based on the numbers. So say you have flowers that are titled 1, 2, 3, and 4, they would count that and say I have 4 flower bouquets. One activity that we would do that would be large group is plant observations. So the students would be given a large plant or maybe even smaller plants like you see in the picture here, and they would be able to observe it by looking at a magnifying glass and looking at the different types of leaves that they have and whether or not there's fruit or vegetable growing on it. They'd talk about the soil and things like that. And then the students would be seated down at a table and they would be able to draw what they see, like what they saw based on their observation. One art activity that we would do is painting with leaves. So I would give the students a handful of leaves or stems and sticks, and they would be able to paint a picture with those and use those as replacements of paintbrushes. And it would be a really cool hands-on activity for the students to do. One big activity that we would do is probably go visit a botanical garden somewhere. We would also obviously invite their parents or grandparents to come to maybe do a big, large family activity. And the parents or grandparents would receive little like notepads and things to be able to make notes of what they saw throughout the field trip. While we're at the garden, we would like to visit a botanist, excuse me. The botanist would be able to tell us a little bit more about her job or his job, and tell us a little bit more about like the importance of how a plant or vegetables and things are important to our environment and why we need them so much. This field trip, as I mentioned already, the parents or guardians would be given a notepad so that they could write down things. So say it would be child-directed writing. So say like your student named Susie sees a pretty pink flower and she says, "Ooh, write it down. I found a pink flower." Then her parent or grandparent or guardian or either even teacher would write down that Susie found a pink flower, and then they would turn it in at the end of the day for documentation of the field trip. One final project that we would do is called a garden in a jar. So this would also be group led And also, like, we'd also invite the parents or grandparents to come and help make these garden in jars. So it could be like as simple as just like a mason jar and like some greenery, like even random things like oregano or a herb or something, and then they'd be able to put the seed in it. And throughout the unit plan, the students would watch the plant grow, and they'd be able to make observations based on that as well. Um, Near the end of the unit plan, I would make this. I would make an art gallery of all the art that the students made, all the documentation, like say like the notepad samples. We would laminate and put around the walls so that at the final project, the parents will come and take a look at the art gallery and remember the steps that the classroom has taken to learn the whole unit plan. One final thing that we would do is throw on a play. This play would be about the life cycle of a plant. So one student would play the sun, one student would maybe dress up as water, and we would write it, and we would sit down during circle time and talk about things that we learned in the lesson plan and during the lesson unit, and we would also talk about how we can present that, and then we would invite the families to come and watch us as we kind of do like a mini play of the tiny seed, and we would also probably reread the tiny seed just to refresh our memories and then to also have good inspiration as we go into the play. So yeah, that is our unit plan. Thank you.